You don't remember the moment it happened. There was no dramatic scene, no single memory you can point to and say, "That's when I changed." It was quieter than that. It was the slow realization that being noticed didn't feel safe, that expressing too much made the room tense, that asking for more made people withdraw, that being low maintenance earned you peace. So you adapted. You learned to read micro-expressions before words were spoken. You learned when to speak, when to stay silent, when to shrink. You learned how to disappear emotionally while remaining physically present, and it worked. It kept you safe. It kept the connection intact. It kept the chaos away. But here's the paradox, the one no one warned you about. The very awareness that protected you is now what makes you controllable, not because you're weak, but because you are attuned, and in a world that rewards dominance, attunement is often exploited. You sense tension before others do. You feel responsibility for moods that aren't yours. You adjust before anyone asks, which means no one ever has to ask. Silent control doesn't force you, it lets you do the work, and the most dangerous part, you don't even realize it's happening because it feels like kindness, loyalty, maturity, and love. Silent control thrives on a nervous system shaped by early relational uncertainty. This pattern is rooted in hypervigilance, a state where the brain is trained to constantly scan for emotional threat, not because danger is present, but because it once was. When a child grows up in an environment where emotional responses were unpredictable, where love was conditional, moods were volatile, or needs were inconvenient, their nervous system adapts by becoming exquisitely sensitive. This is not personality. This is neurobiological conditioning. Your amygdala, your brain's threat detection, sent to learn that connection equals risk. Your default mode network, the system responsible for self-referential thought, became oriented around one question: how do I stay acceptable? Over time, this creates what attachment theory calls anxious or fearful avoidant attachment, a state where closeness is desired but constantly monitored, negotiated, and managed. You don't relax into relationships, you perform regulation for them. Philosophically, this mirrors Michel Foucault's idea of invisible power control that doesn't need force, because it has already been internalized. No one has to dominate you externally because the rulebook lives inside you. And that's where the three laws emerge. Carl Jung once said, "The greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of the parent." But there's another burden we rarely name, the unlived self of the child. You sacrifice spontaneity for safety, authenticity for belonging, to need for neutrality. And that sacrifice doesn't disappear. It becomes grief without a funeral. You feel it when rest feels uncomfortable, when joy feels exposed, when being seen feels vaguely dangerous, even with people who claim to love you. Silent control feeds on this fear, because at the core of it is one belief: if I disrupt the emotional balance, I will lose connection. So you preemptively regulate, you soften your truth, you absorb discomfort. Not because you want to, but because your body remembers what happened. When you DID and single quotes T. This is the invisible tax you pay. Being easy costs you yourself. These are not flaws, they are coping strategies, but they show up everywhere. You might over-explain your boundaries, hoping they'll be accepted instead of respected. Feel responsible for other people's emotions, even when you've done nothing wrong. We struggle with decision-making because choice once carried consequences. Attract subtly dominant personalities who never demand but always receive. Silence your dissatisfaction, telling yourself it's not that bad. Feel exhausted after social interactions, not from people but from constant self-monitoring. And the cruelest part, you often gaslight yourself. You say, "I'm just sensitive, I'm too much. Others have it worse." But healing doesn't begin with fixing. It begins with witnessing. Naming the pattern without judgment. Seeing how silence once saved you and how it no longer has to. Unlearning is not rebellion, it's permission. Healing from silent control requires something radical. Softness without apology. Inner child reparenting means giving yourself what was missing, not permission to disappear, by permission to exist. Shadow work means reclaiming the parts of you labeled inconvenient, emotional, or too much. And slowly, gently, you teach your nervous system a new truth. Visibility does not equal danger. Boundaries do not destroy connection. Authenticity does not invite abandonment. Rest is not laziness. Needs are not threats. The goal is not to become louder, or harder, or immune. The goal is to become whole. As philosopher Søren Kierkegaard wrote, "The most common form of despair is not being who you are. You were never broken. You were adaptive. And now you are allowed to choose differently." If this resonated, share it with someone who lives quietly inside themselves. Subscribe not to be fixed but to remember who you were before silence became survival, because the deepest freedom is not control, it's presence.